This week, week 4, our Texans take on the Carolina Panthers at home in Houston. Now, the Carolina Panthers, they're coming into this game 1-2. They beat Arizona last week pretty easily. However, they lost the first two games. Week 1, they lost against the Rams in a close one, and week 2, they lost to the Buccaneers Thursday Night Football in what was a close game on the scoreboard, but wasn't really that close if you actually watched it. I thought the Buccaneers handled that one pretty well. Now, the Panthers as a team, personally, I think they're pretty cool. I like the Panthers. They're a very talented team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They got players like Luke Kuechly, who is arguably the best linebacker in the NFL. You can definitely make an argument for Bobby Wagner, but you can also make an argument for Luke Kuechly, and honestly, it's 1A and 1B when it comes to Kuechly and Wagner, so you wouldn't be wrong if you said Luke Kuechly was the best linebacker in the NFL. But that's not all. They also have linebacker Shaq Thompson, who I think is a little bit underrated. They have K'Wan Short, Gerald McCoy, the rookie Brian Burns that they drafted in the first round, Dante Jackson at corner. They also have other decent players in that secondary like James Bradbury, Trey Boston, and Eric Reed, who happens to be the brother of the Texans' very own future All-Pro safety Justin Reed. So the Panthers definitely have some talent on defense, but they also have some talent on offense. And you can't mention the Panthers without talking about Christian McCaffrey, who is one of the best running backs in the NFL. I'd definitely say he's top 5. You have, Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey. Like, those 4 are the 4 best running backs in the NFL, so Christian McCaffrey, definitely a top 5 running back in the league. They have decent receivers in DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel, and of course they have Greg Olsen still out there. Now, their quarterback, Cam Newton, unfortunately, he's hurt. He's dealing with a Lisfranc injury. Not too sure how serious it is, but if you guys recall back to the 2011 season, Matt Schaub had that injury, and it ended his season. I still think about that season to this day, by the way. I think that season could have been it. We could have won the Super Bowl, but yeah, that injury kind of ruined Matt Schaub's career, because Matt Schaub, after that injury, he just never was the same. He couldn't really step into his throws all that much, and he kind of had a noodle arm after that injury. So let's hope, Cam Newton doesn't suffer the same fate. Now, their current quarterback is Kyle Allen, and Kyle Allen did pretty good last week for the Panthers. He had like 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, pretty good completion percentage. And with that being said, I'm going to just say this right now before I even get into these matchups. The Texans should win this game pretty easily. But I think it's going to be on Romeo Crennel. It's who it's going to fall on. If Romeo Crennel can do some things right, if he can play this right, this game should be a cakewalk. I'm not expecting this game to be close, but if Romeo Crennel is being, I guess, conservative, then this game could be close. But let's get into these matchups. Let's start off with the Panthers offense versus the Texans defense. Start off with the run game. Christian McCaffrey, like I said, top-notch running back. He's gone off in 2 of these first 3 games, week 1 and week 3. Now, in week 2, he didn't do much, if anything at all, but I'll go ahead and say he had a bad game because it was on Thursday Night Football. And you guys know how I feel about Thursday Night Football. I hate them because the players do not have enough time to rest. A 4-day rest, 3-day rest isn't enough time in my opinion. So it is very possible that Christian McCaffrey came into this game already tired and worn down from the week 1 game. So I'm not going to hold it against him. Now, the way I see this matchup in the run game playing out is I see it being up and down. I don't think the Texans will completely stop Christian McCaffrey on the ground, but I think they'll limit him. They won't shut him down, but they'll limit him. However, I will say this. If the Texans come out and try to tackle how they did versus the Saints in the second half and how they were doing for a bit against Austin Eckler last week, then Christian McCaffrey could have a pretty huge day. So for the Texans, there ain't no room for sloppy tackling this game. You better tackle your guy correctly, bring him down, don't just throw your shoulder in there and hope for the big hit, wrap up, bring him down, and that's it. No extra yards. Because Christian McCaffrey, he's very dangerous. If you don't wrap up on him, if you don't bring him down, he could make you pay with a long touchdown run, and I don't really want to be dealing with that. Now, in the passing game, the Panthers have some weapons in the passing game. They got Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore, and they got Olsen. But I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. I like Curtis Samuel, I like Moore, but they are nowhere near as good as Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, who we played last week. So keep that in mind. Also, keep in mind that the Panthers love using Christian McCaffrey in the passing game. I thought the Texans did a pretty decent job of limiting Austin Eckler last week in the passing game, and you guys know Chargers love using Austin Eckler as a receiving back, but I think Christian McCaffrey is on a whole other level than Austin Eckler. I think Christian McCaffrey is on a similar level to Alvin Kamara when it comes to being a receiving back. And you guys remember what Alvin Kamara did to us week 1. So hopefully the Texans will be able to contain Christian McCaffrey this week and not let him run wild how we did with Alvin Kamara. But you also got to keep this in mind. The Panthers are playing Kyle Allen, a backup quarterback. And like I said earlier, his stats may look good. I mean, he has 6 touchdowns to 0 interceptions in 2 starts. But I'll be honest. I expect Romeo Crennel to completely embarrass him and make him look like the backup that he is. I expect J.J. Watt, Whitney Merciless, DJ Reader, Charles Omenihu, Jacob Martin to completely wreak havoc on that pretty bad Panthers O-line, especially that left tackle spot. Which, let me talk about that real quick. Why in the world are the Panthers playing a career right tackle at left tackle? Darrell Williams is a right tackle, and he's struggling really bad at left tackle. I don't know why they're doing that, but let's keep moving on. I expect Watt Merciless, Charles Omenihu, DJ Reader to wreak havoc, make life difficult for Kyle Allen. And I'll be honest here. I watched some Kyle Allen, and I noticed some tendencies. And, I wasn't the only one. People on Twitter noticed some tendencies. People on Reddit noticed some tendencies. Pretty much everywhere I looked, people were saying the same thing. This guy stares down his first read. Like, really, really badly. Like, it's obvious. He also has a pretty slow release. He takes a while to, just let it go. So, I think Romeo Crennel should easily be able to make life difficult on this young quarterback. I mean, all I'm saying is, if I can notice these tendencies, if people on NFL Twitter can notice these tendencies, if people on NFL Reddit can notice them, I'm pretty sure Romeo Crennel can notice these tendencies as well. At least I hope. Not only that, I saw this chart. I think I first saw it on Reddit. And this chart is Next Gen Stats. It's pretty much just showing Kyle Allen's, throws. Where does he like to throw to and all that stuff. And if you look at it, it's pretty obvious. He prefers throwing to the right side of the field. So knowing what we know about him, slow release, likes throwing to the right side of the field, stares down his first read. Romeo Crennel should have a field day on this quarterback. There is absolutely no excuse. And I'll bring up one example. Do you guys remember last year in 2018 when the Texans played the Browns and Baker Mayfield threw 3 interceptions in the first half? Yeah. That's what I'm expecting from Romeo Crennel. Confuse the young quarterback with all sorts of coverages, all sorts of blitzes, and keep this in mind. Baker Mayfield, as bad as he's playing right now, he is 10 times a better quarterback than Kyle Allen. So I expect Romeo Crennel to really be able to confuse the crap out of Kyle Allen. There is absolutely no excuse to why he wouldn't be able to do so. If Romeo Crennel's defense gets torn up by Kyle Allen, then Romeo Crennel really needs to go. Really. But now let's move on to the Texans offense versus the Texans defense. Let's start off with the run game. Last week, the Texans run game was asleep versus the Chargers. You can blame the new shuffled O-line, which was way better pass blocking wise, but run wise, I don't know if it was Carlos Hyde. I don't know if the line wasn't opening up holes. It just wasn't there. Now, the Panthers, last week they did a good job of stopping David Johnson. However, Kyler Murray ran all over them. But that's Kyler Murray. You can't really rely on quarterback runs in my opinion. But in the first 2 weeks, though, of the season, the Panthers kind of struggled stopping the run. They struggled stopping Todd Gurley. And they even struggled stopping Peyton Barber from the Buccaneers, which is a little bit surprising because the Buccaneers' run game is terrible. So, yeah. So, I do see the Texans possibly having some success through the ground, especially more than last week versus the Chargers. But I see this one being up and down. I mean, the Texans, they have rookies on their O-line. They're going up against a very talented front seven. I just don't see them having an amazing day at running the ball. But I do see it being better than last week because now the O-line is getting more practice time together. O'Brien already confirmed that the starting O-line moving forward will be Tunsil, Sharping, Martin, Fulton, Howard from left to right. So I think that's good. The more these guys practice together, play together, the better they're going to get. So I see the run game thing being an up and down matchup. Now for the passing game. All season long, teams have struggled passing the ball on the Panthers. But, I mean, look at the quarterbacks that they've played. They first played Jared Goff, who's been struggling this season. Pretty much every game, Goff has struggled. He struggled against the Panthers. He struggled against the Saints. He struggled last week against the Browns, and the Browns were missing 40 starters on that defense. So keep that in mind. Deshaun Watson, though, he's a different breed. He's better than Goff. He's better than Winston. He's better than Kyler Murray, the rookie. And Watson just has too many weapons. He has D-Hop, Will Fuller, Kenny Stills, Kiki QT, Duke Johnson. And then last week against the Chargers, you had the emergence of the tight ends. Jordan Akins and Darren Fells did some things. So, I don't think the Panthers have what it takes to stop all of Deshaun's weapons. Now, last week, the Panthers had an 8-sack game against the Cardinals. But prior to that, in the first 2 games, the Panthers only had 4 sacks. So, yeah, that 8-sack game, I wouldn't really consider that something that they do on a weekly basis. It's something more of a, one time in a lifetime type of thing, I guess. Now, the Texans O-line, they will have their hands full against this very talented front seven, but I think they're up for the task. Last week was a huge step in the right direction, and I think this week, low-key, they might even do better, because the Panthers, although they do have very talented players on that front seven, they don't have a Joey Bosa, they don't have a Melvin Ingram, a true elite edge rusher. They have a bunch of big boys on the inside, and I think we'll be fine there. So, yes, Panthers had 8 sacks last week, but they're not going to do that against the Texans. I think Watson, in this game, he has to be patient. He has to take what the Panthers give him. And if he does that, he'll be fine. But if he starts playing reckless and starts looking for those big plays, it could become a long day for the offense, and maybe a long day for Deshaun Watson as well, because Watson, when he starts holding on to the ball too long, he starts getting hit a lot, taking these big hits, and yeah, hopefully Deshaun Watson learns from the past. And last week against the Chargers, it really did look like he learned from the past, got the ball out quicker, really knew what he was doing, saw the, corner blitzes, whatever you want to call them, overload blitzes. He saw them, got the ball out quick, and he only got sacked twice last week because of it. Even though the O-line did do way better last week, Deshaun Watson also had a lot to do with it. Now, let's move on to the keys to the game. If the Texans want to win this game, they have to do these 3 things. Limit McCaffrey at all costs. I don't think the Texans can completely shut him out of the game, but don't let McCaffrey have, 20 carries for 150 yards, a touchdown, and then have another 10 receptions for 90 yards and another touchdown. Because if that happens, that is very, very bad. So the Texans have to limit McCaffrey at all costs. This next one, Romeo Crennel, like I said, confuse Kyle Allen. Romeo Crennel should be able to confuse Kyle Allen. If Romeo Crennel gets conservative and lets Kyle Allen dink and dunk us, it's going to be a long game. It's going to be a close game. And for us Texans fans, it's going to be a frustrating game. Having a close game against an opponent that has no business having a close game with us. Now, the next key, Deshaun Watson, just take what they give you. Do not force anything. No picks, no fumbles. Don't hold on to the ball. Get rid of the ball quick. Because if Deshaun Watson can just be a game manager and not give the Panthers great starting field position in any way, for this game, Deshaun Watson, he could just, chill, put it on cruise control. He don't gotta do nothing special if Romeo Crennel plays his cards right, in my opinion. Now, my prediction for this game, I have the Texans winning 30-16. I think Watson does exactly that, what I just said. I think he does just enough to win. I don't think he'll have a crazy day, because he doesn't have to have a crazy day in this game. I think he just has to manage the game, don't turn the ball over, think and dunk your way down the field, play the field position game and let your defense, destroy that young quarterback on the other side. Deshaun Watson doesn't have to do anything this game, in my opinion. And like I said, I think Romeo Crennel and the defense will make life difficult for Kyle Allen. I think they'll sack him a bunch, probably like 5 or more times. They'll hit him a bunch, and he'll throw some picks, maybe fumble a ball. I just think it's going to be a rough day for Kyle Allen. So, like I said, 30-16, Texans win. Texans move on to 3-1, and they start getting ready for another home game against the Atlanta Falcons. So, yeah, those are my predictions for this game. Comment down below your own predictions for this game. Be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.